Welcome to the solutions video for the starter activity as part of our lesson on the structure of the solar system. Here we're having a look at the planets and the names and places of the planets in terms of their orbit around the sun. So I'm going to give you the answer to the extension activity and I'm going to write down the names of all the planets in the right order. So starting at the closest point to the sun, we have Mercury. Mercury is, I think, now the smallest planet in our solar system. If it isn't, then it's certainly flipping close. I'm pretty sure it is. The second one is one of our nearest neighbours, that being Venus. And third along is us, the planet Earth. Our nearest neighbour, about 9 months in space at its closest point, is Mars. And then we have a big old gap in the solar system. Well, it's not really a gap. We'll talk about what's in that gap throughout the main lesson. And after that, you find yourself at the gas giants with Jupiter. Once you get past Jupiter, you're out into the Saturnine orbit, the rings of Saturn and all of that. Then you find yourself at Uranus, or however you prefer to pronounce it. And finally, we have Neptune. Neptune is, by current classifications, the furthest planet out from the sun in the solar system. For those older hands or people who maybe just missed it in their earlier education, you might be wondering, but what about Pluto? Pluto's a planet. Pluto's that really tiny planet on the outside that sometimes undercuts Neptune's orbit. Yeah, no, not anymore. So Pluto, which we will talk about in more detail in the main video, was actually declassified as a planet a good few years ago. It still exists. Pluto is still there. You could still find Pluto if you were able to send a probe out that way. But by our classifications of what makes a planet, it is not a planet. Pluto nowadays is known as a dwarf planet. Slightly different classification, hence why I talked about 8 here instead of 9. If you're wondering, because I'm being a bit of a massive nerd about space, about where these names come from, like why is Mercury called Mercury? Why is Jupiter called Jupiter? Well, the actual history of it goes back to Rome, and by extension, kind of to Greece, because the planets were named after the Roman gods. So Jupiter, as the largest planet in the solar system, was named after the king of the gods, which is Zeus in ancient Greece, because the Romans nicked the Greek pantheon pretty much. Mercury, the smallest, is the messenger god, Mercury, also known as Hermes. Mars, the red planet, the war god, also Ares in the Greek. Neptune, Poseidon, the two go together. Basically, the names for the planets come back to Rome, who nicked their gods off the Greeks, if you're interested. I enjoy that stuff. And there's also actually, while we're talking about the planets, a really famous suite of music by Holst, the Planets Suite. If you are interested in having some background music that is on theme for today's lesson, you might want to consider the Planet Suite. I've actually played, I think, Saturn, or elements of Saturn, and I know Mars is very famous as well. So, I don't know, might interest you to have the Planet Suite on in the background. Anyway, I'm done rambling now. Make sure to get your solutions into the correct order, and you've got all of the planets. If you want to make a note about Pluto, you can, but we will be talking about it in the main lesson. And once you are happy, click the link in the top of the description to return to the main lesson video. We'll have a proper detailed chat about the solar system structure.